Welcome to this epic ambulatory tutorial. This is going to cover, I would kind of call it a labor of love, something again, a Dr. Sheckman, Stanford family medicine residency, just really came up with some great content here to automate figuring out what labs are due for a patient, right? So that's the main names you need to think about are labs due or qDue, right? Q for my various tools will have a Q in the front. Maybe I even forget some of my own tools. So I can always come into my empty note, right? We learned, if you didn't watch the 3 note videos, you can go back and watch those 3. But I'm in a note, activating a smart link that shows all of my tools, my Q tools, as disappearing hyperlinks, right? Because this is my note. I don't want this in my note, but it's a disappearing link that will go away when you sign the note. Okay. And then I have the little hyperlink within this smart list, disappearing smart list, to show my tools, all right? To show the tools that have been built. So yep, the first 3 videos cover this top part, the note content to some degree. Certainly doesn't get everything, right? Then now we're getting into my Q sets, Q orders, tools. All right, and definitely the mother load is the qDue, labs due, not only because in and of itself, but also this, once you learn about this, well, I leverage this in each of these other full smart sets to really put together the package of note, labs due, optional labs, health maintenance, etc., based on the type of visit that you're doing. But so learning, this will be the more simple, just focusing on labs due. All right, so this little pop-up report will keep track of my tools over time that are built, and the videos will work my way down from here. All right, so figuring out what labs are due for a patient is it's a complex combination of what are their diagnoses, what medications are they on, what labs have they had previously, were those labs abnormal, and you don't realize that in the process of looking into that, you're looking at various places within the chart. The storyboard will contain a lot of information in Epic, including a hover for old labs, a problem list, and then you have the chart review area where you can look at their meds to kind of decide, they're on metformin. Do I need to check a particular lab on that? Or, what is their, EGFR? Do they have type 1 diabetes? Shouldn't I be checking for other autoimmune types issues, B12? So you, in the process of going through the chart, you're now spending a lot of time looking around to kind of decide what labs are due. Yes, you can kind of make a standard, every 6-month kind of thing, but we want some cognitive involvement, because sometimes you might not have realized there was a certain diagnosis they had and a certain lab test that will be appropriate. All right, so the key thing for activating this labs due is going to be initially add order, right? Bottom left, add order. All scripts, you had your clinical toolbar, you had the little Erlenmeyer flask and all the other different buttons. Well, one order for all, one button for all orders, right? And I'm going to type labs due. Well, I got nothing, right? Because it's this panel is not yet on a preference list or facility list, so I have to broaden my search, right? Remember, if you've gone through my Allscripts training, I always told you to press the enter key to search the master database. If your search doesn't bring up anything as you're typing, press the enter. Well, in Epic, it's not the enter key, it's the broaden my search button. When you're not finding what you're looking for, broaden my search to eventually search the full database. All right, well, there he is. Labs due, that's what you're looking for. That's this particular order panel that I'm going over today. I'm going to right-click on it and add it to my orders preference list. And I'm going to give it a display name of qDue, because that's what it's called. And I could have searched under qDue. It does have an alias of qDue, and it would find it as well. For example, qDue. And there it is, qDue. Now, I had saved it to my favorites, but that is also an alias for this particular panel. All right, so I'm going to activate that panel. And basically, this panel, looking at a variety of diagnoses, medications, and labs, scours the chart and say, oh yeah, these are the labs that are due for this patient. These are the labs that are due based on all those factors. Well, right, doctors aren't a trusting sort. I want to, what do you mean that these are the, what do you want, that they don't need any of the other things besides this? Well, if you click for details, you will get down into the nitty gritty. So right up at the top of this smart group, you're going to see the diagnoses that were relevant. You're going to see abnormal last labs that were relevant. And then as you get down even further, you're going to get into to more. And up in here, if you forgot, you about the rules behind this tool, this little hyperlink will pop up all the rules governing this tool. Okay, so when will it tell you to order a CBC, a BMP, LFT, CMP, all the way on down? Okay, and then it has all the logic of what is it looking for based off of other diagnoses, medications, or the abnormalities of the last labs. Right? This was an initial base build. We're certainly, as a group, we can adjust this for any particular changes. I'm not wedded to exact numbers. I used up to date wherever I could to kind of guide these decisions, and as well as Dr. Sheckman's guidance as well from his build. But this is a great base to go for diagnoses and labs to really assist with when I should be ordering what. So if I dig in a little further about the BMP, right? Why does a BMP needed? Well, because this patient has hypertension and there's no BMP on the chart for the past 10 years. Now, why a BMP and not a CMP? Well, the logic does kind of figure out, oh, well, they're not on a statin, they don't have hyperlipidemia, or they don't have some other diagnosis that needs the full CMP. It just gives you the BMP, but you can switch it if you decide, well, I don't ever order BMPs, I only order CMPs. Yeah, you have the option to switch it here. But if it only feels like it needs those BMP items as far as the creatinine, the potassium, it will guide you to that. Then we have the A1C, right? It'll pick the one with the estimated average glucose. It says, this patient has prediabetes. So there's a diagnosis on the chart of prediabetes and no A1C past 10 years. What about TSH? Oh, okay. They found the logic found a thyroid disorder on the problem list. The last TSH was abnormal, and that last TH was more than 4 months ago. And it gives me the actual value. Last TSH, 9.8 on September 2nd. So yeah, so basically, think of all the places in the chart you would have had to go to kind of figure out, was it time to maybe follow up on a TSH that was abnormal. All right. Now, if you decide, nah, I'm not concerned about this, or I've just put them on medication, you do have the option to uncheck it. So nothing is set in stone here, but the guidance really gives a base of looking up things that you now don't have to look up. All right, a microalbumin. So this one's a little different, right? They have the pre-diabetes, not diabetes, but this one, hypertension with no microalbumin in the last 10 years. This one also includes a little link to Up to Date, where it kind of talks about, okay, even with hypertension, getting that microalbumin value every once in a while is relevant in that Up to Date topic. But if that's not your usual workflow, you can uncheck that. All right, so back up to the top, a couple of other things that are up here, these hyperlinks, is so with the rules behind the tool, you see you have all these labs. Well, if you want to see the results of all those labs, just for the qDue labs, not kind of all, then this link will show you the last values for each of those items. And when it comes to the CBC, it's just the key things of the hemoglobin, hematocrit, platelet, white count. It's not going to include the full, but so it's concise. It's a concise listing of these items, and we see, okay, why didn't it tell us to order a hepatitis C antibody? Well, because there's already one on the chart from September 11th. All right, so there were other things that it was checking for, but it determined that we didn't need to order those at this time. So you didn't even have to look into that per se. Now the HM care gaps will also track hepatitis C as well. So there's some redundancy going on here. But when it comes to working on your notes and getting orders in, I find this very valuable to have this kind of information available. All right, so the other one is maybe I needed to see a trend of those lab results. So if I wanted to see 3 values, right? And this is test data. There's some unusual test data in here that you can ignore. But this one gives me the last 3 values for TSH, right? So in August, there was a greater than 150. And on the September 2nd, the 9.8. Okay, so some treatment helped out there, right? Then we have the PSA values with the last 3. We have a couple of white counts, a couple of hemoglobins, right? So we have this ability to kind of look at that trend while I'm kind of working on my orders and my note. I don't have to cancel out or go back to the results area. It just gives me some point of care options to kind of review data even right, without backing out of where I am. All right, so that, now I forgot to mention an important part of this. One of the things with Epic is that it doesn't immediately kind of always help with linking diagnoses to these labs, right? In certain scenarios with orders, it will link, but not with this kind of a lab smart group. So yes, once I accept these labs, you'll see these 2 circles here and they have no colors. Those 2 circles with no colors means that these do not yet have diagnosis associations, right? So that they're without diagnosis associations, you're eventually going to be having to associate diagnoses to those orders. And so you see here up here, the 2 circles are now linked with a red and blue color. That's what you're hoping to get. And so this is actually a button, right? That's a button that you can get to, and I can do the diagnosis association. Now this particular visit, I didn't have any yet assessed visit diagnoses. Here's the patient's problem list, right? So definitely get your assessments in, get those visit diagnoses in early, because it'll make this process even quicker with an all button. But this gives me an opportunity to find their problem list and get those. Now these diagnoses were still needing some more specificity. So I got to go through all that. This year, we're all going to be dealing with this increased specificity for ICD-10 codes. And then now, yes, they're all here in, and now I can click all, or if I wanted to, select to mark them how I want them. But most people will just kind of link all their labs to all the problem visit diagnoses, just like in Allscripts. All right, so that's diagnosis association. So look, I now have the nice associated diagnoses. Again, get your visit diagnoses in early. You'll save yourself a step there, and then you'll see in the future with some workflows that the diagnosis association is automated, especially using the care gaps area. There's some logic to associate diagnoses, and within some of the smart sets. All right, so that is the labs do for this particular instance. I have a couple of others. Okay, I've jumped over into a different chart. Just kind of repeat some steps just to get you familiar. All right, if you want to find the qTools pop-up, I can find that pop-up right here. Right, this is what I'm going over right now. I can search for that qDue, and there it is, right? Why did it pop up? I didn't have to go to the facility list because I had already saved it. Now, once you have your preferences set up, you can bypass the search for new orders and just go to this button right here. Go to the open preferences. This will save you time. And so then you'll have and then from here, yes, there's the whole preference list for the specialty that you have here, and it kind of makes things a little busy. Once you kind of figure out your true favorites, then you can just say, I only want to see my favorites. I'll go to this other stuff when I need it by unchecking, but I only want to see my favorites. And within my favorites here, this is where I've got my qDue, my labs do. And so I'm in our proof of concept system, and I have it named slightly differently, Q labs do. So then let's say I wanted to change that. I was like, I want to edit that. Right. So now I can just call it qDue. All right, so I'm in this patient. I want to check out my qDue. Oh, wow, this one ordered a whole lot more stuff. Look at all this stuff, yes. But I want to get the details. Why did it order all these things? Oh, okay, this was my example that has mostly all the diagnoses related to the labs, right? So this patient has hypertension, has liver disease, chronic kidney disease, atherosclerotic disease, osteoporosis, gout, anemia, thrombocytopenia, prostate cancer, vitamin deficiency. So then as we go down, we'll see it'll repeat some of those things to tell you why it's ordering. And then it will tell you if there was any past labs. But again, this one was set up so that none of the labs are there. All the diagnoses related to labs are kind of there, but none of the labs are actually ordered or present. So it captured all that information and said, yeah, this patient needs all these labs due. And then you still can edit whatever you want. And you can still dig in and look at the rules behind the tool. And then I could have done this and seen, there was one lab value in the past. Someone had recorded back in July a phosphorus of 6.5. All right, and then if we do the last three, nothing. All right, so that's another example of this patient has a lot of diagnoses, but no lab data. Let's look at our next one. All right, so now I know I'm going to go to my preferences, go to my qDue, accept. All right, I'm seeing some lab orders here. Yep, not as many as the last one. All right, I didn't even review the chart. I mean, many times you will be reviewing the chart ahead of time. You're going to have some sense of the labs, but you can just come in and activate this set and learn quite a bit about the patient just by activating the qDue set. So, this one, look at this. Somehow this patient is taking a whole bunch of medicines, but we don't have the diagnoses in there. This is just a testing sample where I was really focusing on the logic of the medications. So it's in most cases they're going to also have the diagnoses, but this one is really focused on the medication logic. And so as I come down here, I'm going to see for each lab what medication logic caused it to order each of these labs, right? So yeah, anticoagulant, allopurinol, metformin, diuretic. Yeah, look at that, the CMP, all kinds of stuff. Lipid panel, taking a statin with no lipids in the past 10 years. TSH, this patient did get a thyroid disorder added at some point, but is taking a thyroid med. Taking amiodarone, right? You're supposed to monitor some TSH there, but none available, right? Not sure I would have remembered that. All right, uric acid, taking allopurinol, and then some of them will link back to some up-to-date topics if you wanted to really dig in right at that moment. Here's a magnesium. Another reason to, when someone's on digoxin, taking a PPI, and then no hepatitis C screening. But this is where if you had met it from the care gaps area before here, it would not have activated. All right, so this is an example of all the different medication logic that will trigger the labs do. All right, next. Jump to my preference list, find qDue, accept. All right, so Oliver's got some labs. He's got a hemogram with diff, a hepatic function panel, A1C, TSH, vitamin D, PSA, microalbumin. Let's take a look. Let's dig in. All right, so this patient for diagnoses has osteoporosis, right? So this one, I didn't put all the diagnoses in here. This one is really mostly focused, you'll see, on abnormal labs. So this is where, whether they had labs from you, a specialist, or at the ER or during an admission, it's going to glean all of that, any structured lab data that we have, and if there's abnormalities, when you have an abnormal lab value, you're typically going to have a shorter interval to order the lab again. And so that's what this patient example is focused on, is all these different abnormal labs. All right. So then as we go down, we'll see the CBC is due, and it's going to tell us, this patient had a eGFR less than 60. Right, so chronic kidney disease, erythropoietin drops as well. So not sure I would have be keeping up with that always. And the last CBC was over a year ago. Then this one had a last white count of 4.2, a last platelet. All right, why is the LFTs due? Because the last LFTs were abnormal. The ALT was 300. The AST was 100. All right. Yeah, but there's no total bili, there's no phosphorus level, but this patient is also taking a DOAC, and so there's guidance on following LFTs. So there's that hepatic function panel. A1C, we have an abnormal A1C of, last one was 8 on May the 6th, and that was greater than 6 months ago. The TSH, they have a thyroid disorder. The last TSH was abnormal. Last TSH was 25 back on April the 20th. Vitamin D, here's the reasons why, has osteoporosis and a vitamin D less than 20. Last vitamin D was 15. PSA, last PSA was 6.8, age 50 plus. Then you can link back to the up-to-date topic. Microalbumin, this person had a low eGFR. Their last microalbumin was greater than a year ago. It was 330. And we have a link to the early detection of CKD up-to-date topic. All right, if I want to take a look at those all together, there's all those abnormal lab results in a form there. Or I want to take a look at the trend. Here's my trend. If there's more, if there's up to 3 of the last lab values will show. Lots of abnormalities, because that's what this was checking on. All right, so that example is also a good one to show us. Let's say those labs, while your note may will pull in some labs, maybe you wanted all of those qDue labs to show up in your note, right? You wanted that table that was there of the last values. Well, that itself is a smart link called qDue priors, right? Or if you wanted the all 3, but this one is kind of long to put in your note, but the qDue priors will put that table in your note for those exact lab results. All right. And if you were watching my note videos, you'll remember this is just a smart link and you can edit it. Maybe you wanted to add a lab into here, right? Maybe you wanted the there's a chloride in here as well. Well, I can edit the parameters and come in here and add a chloride. All right. Right, so I'm going to add chloride. So the base name will map to many component names. Just make sure you kind of get the one you're looking for as far as serum, plasma, urine. All right, see, it pulled in the last chloride now as well. All right, so it's a great way to start using that, the smart links. But when it comes to smart links that pull in groups of labs or groups of imaging, just learn that you can edit the parameters and maybe pull in or get rid of something that you don't want. So that is the end of our patient with abnormal labs. Now, I believe this patient was pretty healthy, didn't have a whole lot going on, I think. Let's look at this last one. With this test patient, we're going to go to our favorites and we're going to activate qDue. Well, nope, this one also required a lot of stuff, huh? A lot of stuff. Let's go to the details. Okay, so this, we have this was a little mix of everything. This patient has gout. They're taking a DOAC and taking digoxin. They have a variety of abnormal labs. Then they have, for each of the individual items, they have the labs that are done. And what I think it was that when I created this and was initially testing, these dates were in range. So these March dates or whatever dates I created were in range. They were less than a year, less than 6 months. So it wasn't going to trigger the labs order. But now that many months have passed, they are now due. So when I was testing with this patient X months ago, it wasn't showing any labs due because everything was up to date. But now things are in need of redo. But even that's the case, I can come in here and as I'm deciding what to order, I can see what was the last values. Right, cholesterol 270, A1C of 8, vitamin D of 18, last magnesium 1.7. So and then still have access to the full listing or the last 3 trend. And the other link that I hadn't even talked about yet, let's say there's so much going on with this patient, I need to review all the labs. I just need to go review all of them. Well, you can link back to the chart review labs. So this is kind of like in Allscripts going to the chart viewer or the results tab. And so now I'm in the results tab. If I want to review the labs, then I can come in here and click on a lab, right, and start looking at the labs this way. Right. There will also be the storyboard listing of labs here on the left in many cases, where you can hover on it and see the labs right here. Yeah, here it is right here. So I can look at labs right here within the last 3 years. So that's also a very helpful new feature within the storyboard to get access to the labs as well. And just to show you that one more time again, is I can come in here and use the smart link to pull those items into my note. And then right click, edit, smart link to add additional information. All right, so you've made it through another tutorial. We've now covered quite a bit of content related to notes, and then this one covers qDue, Labs Do, the rule-guided custom smart group panel. So yeah, next up, we'll be getting into more of the smart sets, right? qDue just deals with labs in relation to diagnoses, medications, and lab abnormalities. But then when we get into smart sets, it's not going to just be labs. We're going to be talking about using a smart set to find what note you want, to find what labs you want to order, to find what health maintenance you want to order, instructions, and more. Billing. So stay tuned for those videos related to especially these 3 smart sets: the annual wellness visit, annual physical exam, and the chronic disease management. Right. So they all, nice thing is once you kind of know how one of them works, they all work pretty similarly, but they have different billing, different priorities, different documentation requirements, and other features as well. Thanks for bearing with me, and hope you enjoyed and learned something. Have a good day.